So I asked Pernilla a question on Friday. Oof, and I thought the question was really light. So I had asked her, um, how does prayer or speaking to the high or requesting help from the higher fit into the fetters?
Yeah.
And she gave a beautiful answer. And it was very kind and gentle. And my emotion is more joy and gratitude. And what's happened is there's this subtle shift, which has surprised me. So subtle. But it's like I've given up my idea that there's something higher, that there's a God. And now what surprises me is there's more relaxation in the body. There's more presence here.
Mm.
And I had thought it would be different than that. I would be scared if I didn't have something to pray to or ask for help to. But, for the first time, I'm feeling uh, present. I'm feeling here with a greater strength to be present to the reactions were arising, that
Mm.
are arising.
Yeah.
And the mind thinks because I'm more present, these reactions shouldn't be happening. And, this morning I had a huge reaction over something. And so as I was in the meditation, all I could feel was this heart pounding vibration, um, nervous anxiety, just wanting a resolution to this reaction. And I really began to see that this is the way, this is a program. This is the way it's always happening.
Exactly.
And I'm not sure what my question is, but it's like, how do I keep this? How do I stay present and just embrace and engage rather than be taken, which sounds like a ridiculous question because it feels like a grasping and control at the same time. I don't know. Can you give me some feedback?
Yeah. So first of all, I heard your I listened to the Q&A, so I had heard your question and Pernilla's, amazing answer. Um, I think before I say anything, I also want to preface for anybody else who's listening that, there's nothing wrong with having, as you said, the training wheels or and even that can sound a little bit derogatory, but and we're not
Safety net.
yeah, yeah, exactly. There's nothing wrong with having a sort of safety net when you need that in your life. Um, that, of course, is what we talk about with the eighth fetter. And as you have recognized, that you can experience life without that need to appeal to some idea of a higher power or some idea of something outside of yourself. And we do often do that because it feels like I don't have the security and the safety within me to rely upon. So I need to feel like there's something out there that I can trust because I can't trust myself. I can't, I don't,
Rely.
yeah, exactly. I can't rely on what's here. I need to know that there's something else out there. And if that helps, that's great. And I would never want to take that away from anybody. Um, what you're saying though is that you recognize that with that extra added belief out of the way, that you're not missing anything, that what you have been relying on outside of you is something that has been inside of you all along, and that it's there, it's present, and you have the wisdom and the distance from, like you said, you had a reaction today, and we'll take that aside for a moment, but having that sort of presence to be, as you said, you were like sort of with and recognize the the reaction, but there was kind of like it sounded like there was a bit of a distance from it, like you weren't totally taken in by it.
Right. Mhm.
And so with that, we're 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 loosening even more of the identification with the one who is um going to be reactive and needing to not be reactive, the one who feels like they need to appeal to something else in order to not feel what they're feeling right now. You're having more of that stability to just come back to what actually is in your experience right now, and to be okay and equanimous with that, even if right now there's something that's like a reaction that we can actually look into and figure out what's going on with that. But
And
even
Todd,
yeah.
and I'm also noticing right there is that that's true what you're saying, but I'm also noticing in the background of there's a resistance, like a fear saying, um, I don't want to give up this reaction.
Why is that? What is the reaction doing for you?
It's giving me an identity.
Mm, that's well seen. And what would happen if you gave up that identity? The one who is it the identity of the one who is reacting, or is it something particular about that issue that gives you the identity? Do you want to say what the actual reaction was about?
Oh, I'm on the just on the board of directors of my condo, and
Mm.
they're not doing things right.
It,
And my righteousness is all in there, and it's not legal what you're doing, you know. Um, so there's this. Um, it's like this safety issue for me, almost like um, I come from a very abusive background, so it's almost like this board of directors now is the parent, and they're not doing it right. They're keeping, and I have to keep the secret.
okay.
Um, but the identity thing about wanting to hold on to the reaction is, it feels like I'm giving up my entire existence, my entire life as I know it. It's the strangest feeling that I'm giving up the sense of I have to always think I'm wrong, and I always think I'm bad.
Mm.
And to give that up and just be present without the opposite of I am good, but just to be present without anything. Yeah.
Well, how does that feel? So is that a concerning thing, or is there a hint of freedom in that idea?
It was both.
Because
Oh,
if you
and
keep,
and and that's when I started speaking. There's a sense of joy and gratitude that there's a subtle shift that I'm feeling that freedom, but at the same time, I guess it's just conditioning that's coming in and being taken by a little bit.
I'm also thinking that when you have had that, when you have had the background that you have had, and you have that foundational idea that I am bad,
Yeah.
then in order not to feel that, and in order for people not to figure that out about you, find that out about you and leave you vulnerable, you have created this persona that is always doing right, and that is telling other people what the right thing is to do. So they never ever see through that. So you have created this, false persona in front of you. And of course, when you start to see through self and you start to realize that the I am bad, it's just a thought, then that entire persona front that you have created starts to crumble, because you don't need that anymore. You don't need to tell people that they're wrong. You don't need to correct other people, because you don't need for them to believe you are not bad, because you don't believe it anymore. And I do understand you had a bit of the same experience with veganism
Mm.
and with activism, that once you see through that need for other people to see the right thing, then that feeling of righteousness
Yeah.
is not needed anymore, because it's a crutch and a diversion from the underlying belief. And when the underlying belief is not there anymore, you don't need the diversion, you don't need the crutch anymore, which means that righteousness is just dissolving slowly, not there anymore. It's just not important anymore.
Yeah.
So I get what you say, that it feels like, I don't want to give that up, because, uh, um, we should follow the rules, we shouldn't do illegal things, that sense of righteousness is still there, but it's more hollow than it has been before, because it used to be a cover up for an underlying belief. Now it's just rule following.
And there's
Yeah.
also the and recognition that it's still all just story.
Mm.
That, every part of that idea that there are people there who are not following rules, and there's a you there who is following the rules, or feels like they need to tell the other people what to do and point it out to them. All of that is this layer of story which can be peeked underneath. And you can see that underneath that, it is that hollowness, that is that emptiness where these things are happening, but there's no person involved. There's no identification involved with any of it. So, um,
Yeah. And a part of me wants to say, okay, and this is black and white thinking, is okay, this is dissolving. So tell me exactly how I should be right now, and I'll be okay. I'll be okay. So, and I see that is
and you
that
are and you are okay, not knowing how you are okay, or what it's going to be like, or what's going to happen. You are okay no matter which of those scenarios play out. And this is having that confidence
It's
that
yeah, it's a bit like floating, in water. When you're floating in water, you can only float if you let go.
mm,
If you try to float, you sink. So you can only float by letting go. And when you're lying and floating, you're not thinking, how am I going to go from the floating state up to the standing state and the walking towards the beach state? You don't think that. It just happens when it happens. When you have had enough of floating, you just stop floating, and then you stop. It's where you're now. You don't need to concern yourself about how to do the next state, in the next stage. It will take care of itself. It's not something which you can make happen. You can just let it happen. See through the stories, like Todd was pointing out in the meditation. See through the stories, keep looking, coming back to, yes, there's a sensation, but what's the story about the sensation around it, and then dissolving that and just looking into that very pure experience of sensations that are happening, and let the story take care of themselves.
that's perfect. No, you just said it right there. Yeah. Oh, so grateful. No, the system just calm down and relax.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you.
thank you.